Hey, you guys. Just trying to set this up. Let me see. Okay, there we go. There we go. Take a little sip. Sippy sip. Let me see. I'll do this. I am going to, let's see, I did want to comment. Let's see. Let's see. That's gonna work, but we'll see. We will see, queens. We will see. So what's going on, beautiful women of God? My name is Maritza George, and I love to help women become a better or the best version of themselves. I like to help them do the work necessary to become that person, to become that best version of themselves. Ideally, what I like is for women to get to a place where they're happy with themselves, where they are comfortable in their skin, their own skin that they're living in, that they are not trying to be a people pleaser, and that they're living their life, their best life, moving forward. The more they learn, the better they become, right? Tonight, I wanted to discuss with you guys the importance of understanding the difference between really being ready for that true relationship and versus just not wanting to be alone, because there is a difference. And I feel like often we lose sight of that. Often we confuse the two, and we begin to feel as though because we don't want to be alone, that's like a signal, like that's telling us that we must be ready for a real relationship, a true relationship, not just messing around, right? Not just being out there, hooking up, met somebody, and you get your little friends or whatever that keep you company or whatever you may be into. Not that. I'm talking about a real relationship with someone. And there is a difference, women. Often, queens, we get to this space where we are lonely, and we just really, really don't want to do this thing called lonely anymore, to the point where we are telling ourselves that we are ready for a relationship, and in actuality there's so much work that we still need to do as women on ourselves, for ourselves, right? That should be the signal to us that we are not ready for a relationship that could turn into something amazing, that could turn into that one that is asking us, would you be my wife, right? Would you marry me? But because we are unwilling to take the time to do the work, because we don't allow ourselves to sit in that loneliness and to become comfortable with become comfortable with ourselves, quite frankly, right? And spending time with ourselves and getting to know ourselves, right? And working on ourselves so that we are 100% or close enough to it when we do meet our Boaz or our Mr. Right, whatever you call him, right? So, you know, we don't do the work. We don't do the alone time. We don't want to feel it. As soon as we feel loneliness creeping, we start looking for a way to fill that instead of asking ourselves, why do I feel lonely? Like, what is that? Like, what is going on with me that when I'm by myself, I feel lonely, right? And that I feel so lonely that I don't want to be with myself. Like, I want somebody to fill that place. I feel so lonely that sometimes I think about, or even may compromise myself, and I may, you know, make a call to somebody. It might be a booty call. It might be somebody who, quite frankly, is not the most respectful to you, but because you are lonely, you make the phone call because to you it feels better to spend time with somebody, talking with somebody, somebody being in your face, making you feel special, than for you to sit in that aloneness, right? A lot of times, queens, because we haven't done the work, when we do get into relationships, we find ourselves repeating a lot of the same bad habits on our end, right? That we were doing. The same things we were doing in our past relationship. We find ourselves putting up with the same kinds of things that we said we would not put up with within the relationship that we jumped in. That we had it, how am I trying to say it here? We find ourselves putting up with and allowing things that we said we would not put up with from our past relationship within our new relationship. And the person could be, quite frankly, an identical to the guy that we broke up with for all these reasons, right? But because of this loneliness that we were feeling, right? We jumped into a relationship that we were not ready for. We were not ready for it, but yet and still, we jumped into it because we did not want to be alone. That is a big no-no. There has to be a way. You have got to get to a place where you matter enough to yourself. And that comes from doing work and spending time by yourself, that you yourself stop the jumping around into relationships or dealing with men that you had cut off because they may have been disrespectful, or you just knew they weren't the one, right? Or they just was turning you off in some way, right? They don't have to be disrespectful, but they just were turning you off, right? But, or they could just not even be, let's go here. They cannot be attractive to you, right? Because somebody has to be, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but let's go there. In order for you to move forward, you have to have some form of attraction to a person. And it has been my experience, and the experience that I've seen with other women, that there has to be some type of physical attraction initially, right? You have to like something because you don't know the person yet, right? You do not know them yet. So what you are going off off of are physical features in most instances, right? Sometimes you hear somebody talking and you're like, wow, this is a great person. They sound like a great person. But for the most part, we see someone, we're like, wow, he's handsome, he's attractive, whatever way you say it. And then you move on into, wow, like, let me see what this person is about, right? So it has to get, queens, where there is more than that physical attraction, right? It has to get to a place where when you are dealing with somebody, that you are moving past that you are moving into a deeper relationship with this person. And the way that happens is by you first getting to know who you are as a woman, your likes, your dislikes, your wants, your non-negotiables, the things that you don't want to know, absolutely not. The things that, the ways that you want to be treated by a man, you need to like spend time on that. How do I want him to treat me? And you have to get comfortable with expressing that, right? And these things and more, you find out when you're spending time by yourself. Instead of thinking about all what we do when we're alone, right? And feeling lonely, being woe is me-ish, right? Is we start thinking about all the past relationships and all the things that were done to us, right? And oh, if he was good in certain ways, if he was good in bed, or if he was a romantic, or whatever it might be, we think about all those things, past relationships, and I can't believe that I spent time, I wasted my time, I this, I that, or we think over and over about scenarios and what they did to us, or incidents that we may have had with them. We play things out in our head over and over and over and over, instead of spending time on ourselves, strengthening ourselves as women, who we are as women, what we represent as women, what we come to the table with as women. Instead of doing that, we spend time on our past thoughts about who he was, what he did, how he treated us, and it might not just be he, it might be them. We go from one relationship to the next that failed, and we spend time on that instead of, queens, getting in a space where we are owning ourselves and owning the time that we're going to spend on ourselves, dedicating that time, getting serious about that time, and getting to know who we are as women. And quite frankly, there are a lot of us, queens, that we, like I said, are you really ready for a relationship, or do you just not want to be alone? And there are a lot of us that can't really answer that, because we have not really spent the time and done the work on ourselves to be able to know the difference. We spend so much time, queens. We spend so much time on making ourselves into what we should be, or what we think we should be for men, right? For our partners, instead of spending time on getting to know who we are and what we're bringing to the table, and not in a way that is, this is like, that is hard and non-penetrable, right? But there has to, in a way that is, this is who I am, and I don't apologize for that. Like, I love who I am, and this is what I'm bringing to the table. Take me or leave me, but this is what I'm bringing to the table. And although each person comes into the relationship compromising, right, things, you should never have to compromise who you are. But if you don't know who you are, if you haven't done the work in all these different areas, right? If you have not done that work, then guess what? You can be compromised. You can be manipulated and molded into what he feels is ideal, right? And sometimes, ladies, I'm not going to say all, because I don't, me and my husband always talk about, he's always like, don't say always, right? So I'm trying not to say always, but that can be detrimental. Because if you are not consistent with who you are as a woman, and if you haven't practiced that on yourself and owned that on yourself, queen, like when he's able to get in there, and manipulate that, you become somebody that is for him, not for yourself, right? Not yourself coming to the table being happy with who you are, and him coming to the table being happy with who he is, and y'all talking, y'all getting to know each other and realizing, wow, we seem like a great fit. Let's move forward with this. It's more like, okay, what's a great fit for him? When you don't know who you are, when you haven't done the work in the times of being alone, right? When you haven't done that work on yourself in those times of being alone, then guess what? Each man that you do date, you go into that relationship unaware of who you are. You may bring past habits that you have learned or picked up, behaviors, ways that you act, and all that from your past relationship that are dysfunctional as heck, that you really don't even acknowledge deep inside of you as being part of you, but that's what you've been doing because you haven't figured out who you are and what makes you who you are, right? And you don't have your foundation in place to be built upon. Men that you date are able to come in and they are able to manipulate that into the foundation that they want, right? Yeah, like, queens, I just want to say, and I get in this space where I'm trying to find a word to just say, please, 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 while you have time to yourself, spend time on yourself. Spend time journaling each and every one of these things and reading them back to yourself so that yourself is taking it in. Yourself is relearning things because you may be, like I said, operating from a space where it's other people's stuff that you are representing on you as who you are. But when you really think about it, you're like, I don't like that, and I don't like that. I don't want to do that, right? There's some women, I'll give you an example. So there are some women out there who, they could be so bothered with cooking. They don't like cooking. They don't want to cook. And, when they're not dating, they are like, whatever, I will eat whatever, I will go out, processed food, or I will buy, fast food, or go out to, dining with friends or whatever, right? But when they are dating or they are with a man and he starts talking about what he wants, right? I want somebody that's going to cook for me and blah, 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 blah. Like the certain role that she jumps right in that space and she is extremely unhappy with it, right? But she's doing it because she wants that man. Now, based off of who she is, right? Because it's not like she can cook. Like there's some women who can throw down, they can cook, they enjoy cooking, but they don't want to cook all the time, right? They want both their man and them to take turns. I'm not talking about that. There are actually women out there who could be so bothered with cooking, right? And they really, they're just like, I don't want to do it. But they get themselves in a place where while they're dating, they start with the cooking, and, you know, they get him into this thought process. He's like, wow, like, you know, she cooks, she's this. She's feeling all the things that are important to me. And then you guys get married, and then you switch up because you really don't like it. And it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And that's not fair, right? Because you weren't being true about who you were. You weren't spending the time. Like, you were so anxious for marriage that you did not spend the time to identify that these are things that are like absolute no's for me. And it's different for each person, right? But you have to identify them, because it's not fair that because you haven't done your work on yourself, because you wanted a relationship so bad, that now you are you're switching up and saying, I'm not going to do that no more. I don't want to do that. I don't like doing that, right? That's something that needs to be expressed at the beginning. And if he decides to move forward, he might say, you know what, okay, well, you know, I really wanted that, but that's not a deal breaker for me, right? I can roll without that. But at least he is walking into the relationship understanding, you don't like doing that. You really don't like doing that. And, you know, it'll be, as my husband says, a blue moon when he sees you do that, right? So, not to get so far off on, you know, how it could look for the man, because I really want to focus this on you, Queen, and you understanding the importance for yourself of doing your work in that alone time, right? In that alone time, doing the work that is necessary so that when you are ready for a relationship, when you are found, right, that you are your authentic self. And it is like, okay, I'm dating this one, I'm dating this one, I'm dating that one. Of course, you all know, if you have watched any of my other videos, that I am an advocate for you to be dating multiple men at the same time. And they should know that. Like, I'm dating. I am dating because, you know what, I am looking to be found by my husband. I am ready for that stage of my life. And, you know, I'm not going to do that one man at a time until I have, you know, me and that person have identified that we're a great fit, right? So while you're doing all this dating, it's important that you know who you are so that you can right fit with somebody, and you can feel comfortable with saying, nope, you're not a good fit for me. Nope, you're not a good fit for me. Because like I said earlier, if you haven't done the work, then you don't know what the right fit is for you. You don't find that out until you're in a relationship that is dysfunctional as heck, and you're trying to, like, detach your feelings so that you can get out. Feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my time, or I wasted my time. If I walk away, then I'm going to be by myself again. I don't want to be alone. And you know, because you haven't done the work and fell in love with yourself, you really, really don't like being alone with yourself, right? You really don't like it, because you don't do positive things in that time period. You do dysfunctional things. You think about past relationships. You think about past negative experiences. You beat up on yourself about past relationships, time spent. It's not a positive experience for you. And I'm not talking about the time period when you just break up with somebody. I'm talking about the alone time that we all need after we come out of a relationship that did not work, so that we can do the work on ourselves, so that we can assess what went wrong, and we can identify how we could have been better and what we could have done, if anything, beforehand, to identify that this person was not a great fit for us, so that we didn't waste our time. So Queens, instead of looking at that alone time as something super negative and something that you just get in this woe is me depressed state, right? Or that you find yourself compromising yourself within because you don't want to be alone, right? Do the work. Enjoy that time with yourself, so that you are able to be that woman that your Mr. Right is looking for, so that you're healed from the past relationships, so that you have strengthened your awareness of who you are as a woman, so that you are basically just beaming, glowing with all this positive energy is just coming from you as it pertains to self-love, self-worth, and self-identity, right? That is attractive in and of itself, and that attracts a certain type of man. And usually that certain type of man is a man who is looking for a woman to get serious with, because he sees that coming from you. He feels that coming from you, right? Usually, unless it's someone who is playing some type of cruel game, men that aren't ready don't spend time in that area, because they identify that this is somebody who is going to require more from me, and I don't want that. I'm not ready for that. But you got to get in the place, and the time to do that, Queens, is when you are alone, right? The best time to do that is when you are alone. So please stop taking this time as, I'm so bored, I'm so this, I'm so that, and do the work. Spend time with yourself, fall in love with yourself, date yourself, right? Get to know who you are on a deeper level. Okay, that's it, y'all. Well, I hope this has helped somebody. I love you guys with the love of the Lord. And I'll see you soon. Later.